In Roman history, bad decisions usually came with speeches, gods, omens, and consequences. But in 249 BCE, one Roman commander managed to turn a naval operation into one of the strangest disasters in military history. Before battle, sacred chickens were brought out. This was not a joke. To the Romans, the birds were part of a religious ritual. If they ate eagerly, the gods approved. If they refused, the omen was bad. That morning, the chickens refused to eat. The commander, Publius Claudius Pulcher, did not take it well. According to the famous story, he grabbed the birds and threw them into the sea, saying, "If they will not eat, let them drink." Then he led the Roman fleet into battle and lost almost everything. This is the Battle of Drepana, a battle of arrogance, bad luck, bad formation, brilliant Carthaginian reaction, and sacred chickens who apparently knew better than the admiral. To understand Drepana, we need to understand the First Punic War. Rome and Carthage had been fighting since 264 BCE, mostly over Sicily. Carthage was the old naval power of the Western Mediterranean. Rome was the land power that had recently learned how to fight at sea, and Rome had learned quickly. Earlier in the war, Roman fleets had scored major victories at places like Mylae and Ecnomus. They had used the famous corvus, a boarding bridge that turned sea battles into something closer to land battles. Roman sailors did not have to outsail Carthage if Roman marines could board enemy ships and fight hand to hand. But by 249 BCE, the war had become exhausting. Rome was trying to finish Carthage's position in Sicily. Carthage still held strongholds in the west, especially Lilybaeum and Drepana, modern Marsala and Trapani. Lilybaeum was under Roman siege. Drepana, just up the coast, held a Carthaginian fleet under admiral. For Rome, this was a problem. As long as Drepana remained active, Carthage could support Lilybaeum, harass Roman operations, and keep its Sicilian resistance alive. So, Publius Claudius Pulcher made a decision. He would sail north from Lilybaeum and surprise the Carthaginian fleet in Drepana's harbor. On paper, it was bold. In practice, it was a disaster waiting for daylight. Pulcher wanted surprise. So the Roman fleet sailed at night. That sounds smart, until we remember what ancient naval warfare actually involved. These were not modern ships with engines, radar, radio, and precise navigation. These were oared warships. Their strength depended on rhythm, space and discipline, and crew coordination. Move a large fleet at night, with crews of uneven training, along a dangerous coast, and the risk of disorder is enormous. That is exactly what happened. By morning, the Roman ships were not tightly organized. They were stretched out in a long, awkward line along the coast. Now comes the Carthaginian commander, admiral. This is where the battle changes. Admiral was surprised, but he did not freeze. He understood immediately what Pulcher was trying to do. If the Romans trapped his fleet inside Drepana's harbor, Carthage might lose its ships without room to maneuver. So Adherbal acted fast. He gathered his crews. He put additional fighting men aboard. Then he ordered his ships out of the harbor before the Romans could seal it. That decision saved the Carthaginian fleet. More than that, it turned the entire battle around. Instead of being trapped inside the harbor, Adherbal got open water. And open water was exactly where Carthage wanted to fight. Carthaginian crews were better trained. Their ships were more maneuverable. Their commanders understood naval movement. The Romans had come to trap Carthage. Instead, Carthage slipped out and trapped Rome. Pulcher now had a terrible problem. His ships were strung out along the coast. The Carthaginians were outside the harbor. The Romans had land behind them and enemy ships in front of them. That meant they had almost no room to maneuver. In ancient naval warfare, space mattered. Ships needed room to ram, room to turn, room to avoid being struck from the side, room to withdraw and regroup. Pulcher had denied himself that space. The Roman fleet was pressed toward the shore. Adherbal had sea room. That was the battle. Not chickens, not divine punishment. Position, formation, training. And one commander reacting faster than the other. The Carthaginians attacked. The Roman fleet, already disordered, could not use its strengths properly. Boarding tactics worked best when Romans could close, grapple, and overwhelm enemy crews. But Carthaginian ships had more room to strike, withdraw, and choose angles. The Romans were heavy, cramped, and badly placed. The Carthaginians were mobile. The result was slaughter. Ancient numbers vary, and all casualty figures from this period should be treated carefully. But the scale of the defeat is clear. But here is the important caution. Polybius, our main source for the First Punic War, gives us the tactical battle, but does not emphasize the chicken episode in the same way later Roman tradition does. The famous line about the birds drinking if they would not eat is associated with later sources such as Cicero. That matters. The chicken story may preserve a real incident. It may also have been exaggerated by Pulcher's enemies. Pulcher belonged to the powerful Claudian family, and Roman aristocratic politics were vicious. A humiliating defeat was bad enough. A humiliating defeat caused by sacrilege was politically lethal. So, the story survived because it explained the defeat in a way Romans understood. He did not merely make a tactical error. He ignored the gods, and the gods answered. After Drepana, Pulcher was recalled to Rome. He faced charges. He was not executed, but his career was ruined. According to later accounts, he was convicted on a lesser religious charge related to the chicken incident and went into exile. And the disaster did not end with him. Another Roman fleet under Lucius Junius Pullus was later wrecked in a storm while dealing with supply operations. So, in a short period, Rome lost not only ships in battle, but also ships to weather. The Roman naval position collapsed. Carthage, for a time, regained the initiative at sea. After Drepana, Rome did not field another major fleet for years. This is what makes the battle pivotal. It did not end the First Punic War, but it delayed Rome. It exposed Rome's weakness at sea. It gave Carthage its greatest naval victory of the war. And it showed that Roman stubbornness, while powerful, could also become arrogance. The irony is that Carthage did not fully exploit the victory. After Drepana, Carthaginian forces raided and harassed Roman positions, but Carthage also reduced naval expenses over time. Rome, meanwhile, absorbed the pain. That is one of the terrifying things about the Roman Republic. It could lose catastrophically and still come back. Rome lost ships. Rome lost men. Rome lost face. But Rome did not quit. Years later, private Roman citizens helped finance a new fleet. This new fleet was trained more carefully. In 241 BCE, at the Battle of the Aegates Islands, Rome defeated Carthage and ended the First Punic War. So, Drepana was a disaster. But it was not the end. For Rome, almost nothing was the end. Still, Drepana deserves its reputation because it gives us one of the clearest examples of how culture, command, and tactics can collide. On the cultural level, there is the omen. The sacred chickens refuse to eat. A Roman commander mocks the ritual. The gods, according to Roman memory, are insulted. On the command level, there is Pulcher. He has a bold idea, a night attack, a surprise strike, a chance to destroy the Carthaginian fleet in harbor. But he fails to control timing, formation, and execution. On the tactical level, there is admiral. He sees the danger, acts fast, exits the harbor, gains open water, and turns Roman ambition into Roman entrapment. This is why the battle is more than a funny story. The chickens are the hook. The real lesson is discipline. A bold plan is not enough. Surprise is not enough. Confidence is not enough. If your fleet arrives scattered, if your enemy reacts faster, and if you fight on ground or water, that favors him. The gods do not need to intervene. You have already doomed yourself. The Battle of Drepana also reminds us that Rome was not born master of the Mediterranean. It became master painfully, awkwardly, expensively, through trial, error, humiliation, and repetition. So, was the Battle of Drepana really lost because of sacred chickens? No. It was lost because Pulcher mishandled a risky naval attack, because his fleet became disordered during a night approach, because admiral reacted with speed and clarity. In the end, Drepana was Carthage's great naval triumph. A Roman surprise attack became a Roman catastrophe. Publius Claudius Pulcher became a cautionary tale. Admiral became the commander who saved his fleet, seized the open sea, and crushed Rome at its own gamble. And the sacred chickens became some of the most famous birds in military history.